So you ask for the audit, it takes all this time. What's running through your head in terms of why this could be?
Well, I think they, they started it in June of 24, and we thought we would have it by early this year. And I think as they're looking at it more, the deeper they're looking, the worse it's getting. And they now are saying probably the summer of this year. And I think, as they look deeper, they're seeing more issues that need to be resolved. And so I know myself, a lot of my colleagues, particularly on the House majority side too, are really they're looking forward to seeing what's in there so that we can help these families, so that we can protect these families.
And that's what this is all about. It's about the families and the patients, and they're frustrated.
They're very frustrated. I mean, you have a complaint process that is rigged. You've had a tremendous amount of issues from patient escapes, nutritional concerns, moving to a different facility, some of these violent attacks that we've seen, which have led to these multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Of course, the active shooter drill that was a false drill, and now a complaint process that is rigged against the patient.
What do you mean by the system's rigged?
Well, the legislation that I've reintroduced this year deals with adding advocacy groups to this recipient rights advisory council. Right now, the council is made up of people that are just kind of looking inward, that are trying to protect themselves, try to protect the system. We need these advocacy groups that they're a voice for the voiceless, voice for the vulnerable, and they can, I think, advocate. If they're on that advisory council, they can advocate for more of these complaints to get their day in court. A lot of times, as we've talked in the past, you have cameras that are not working, that are not seeing these things. We've had over 17,000 complaints in 2023 alone, and many of them really don't go very far. And so
17,000 complaints.
Yes.
Against MDHHS in terms of what?
Within the recipient's rights process, which is all hospitals, but
so 17,000 complaints.
Yes.
That have received some sort of care in the Michigan health system.
Some sort of look at it, and a lot of them don't go anywhere, and sometimes they don't believe the victim because they don't think that they're a reliable witness. If folks have some sort of developmental disabilities, which of course a lot of these folks do, they just kind of dismiss it as, well, they don't know what they're talking about. But when the parents get involved, obviously they know their child, they know what has happened to their child, and they're trying to get some justice.
Have any parents reached out to your office and voiced their concerns?
All the time. I mean,
what do they say?
Well, there's a whole parents group that I know you've talked with some of them in the past, and they're constantly telling us, that's how we found out about the nutritional issues. That's how we found out about some of the school or lack of educational opportunities in there. And then of course, just some of how the staff deals with some of the patients has been, tough.
You talked about the system being rigged. I've got questions about how those employees that were at Hawthorne still have their jobs. To me, that seems quite questionable.
It's very questionable, and we've brought that up numerous times with different, not only with our colleagues in the Senate, but now our colleagues in the House majority. I think we're going to be talking about that more and more as it relates to oversight of the department and really trying to get at those exact questions. So far, we've gotten just kind of very vanilla responses on why. And
I mean, it seems like they broke rules and then they just got kind of hidden away and no one's held accountable. I just don't understand how that happens.
Hidden within the system, so to speak. And that's, to some degree, that's bureaucracy. And then to some degree, that's just a lack of accountability to these patients, to their families in terms of what happened. That was as you know, and you reported on it a lot, that was not only something that was traumatizing to the employees, traumatizing to the patients, but also it really affected resources in terms of having all these policing agencies respond to something that was just a drill.
Let's talk legislation. Where do things
Sure.
stand? Because things, I know you introduced some items, but things have kind of changed a bit. So where does it stand
Well,
right now?
the first and foremost, we're pushing on legislation that will make sure that all the patients understand what their rights are when they go into these facilities, but also that we have this recipient rights advisory board and we have more voices of advocacy groups on that board. That has been introduced in both the Senate and the House, and I'm bullish on the fact that this new House Republican majority will not only take up legislation like that, get that through the process, hopefully with bipartisan support, but also oversight role. There's a House subcommittee on child welfare that Rep. Meerman is chairing, and we've already met with him. He wants to bring me in and bring Rep. Thompson and other folks in to talk about what we've been learning from the parents and the families and the former patients on this issue, and then that kind of dovetails into the release of the Auditor General report later this summer, hopefully, and then hopefully answers and then further legislation that can actually correct these problems going forward.
What's really going on inside this facility right now?
It's it you know, I lose a little sleep at night thinking about it, to be honest. It's something where every time we look into it, it gets worse. I feel like the move to Walter Reuther is maybe, stabilize some of the stuff as it relates to like patient escapes and this and that, but then it created all new problems and challenges. So as we move into this new facility in 2026, it's not just the facility, but we need the right leadership in place as well, and that's going to be a big, I think, theme of the legislation moving forward as it relates to what happens with the Auditor General report.
You can't just build a new building and then bring in all the old staff that caused the problems.
No,
It's just going to be
you can't.
problems in a new building.
It doesn't work in sports. You can build a new stadium
Right.
if you don't have the right team. It's the same thing with this type of facility. Yeah, it will be state of the art. There'll be all the bells and whistles that but you still need the right leadership to make sure, and the right staffing as well, to make sure that we are providing the services that are expected of us as a state for these very vulnerable children and adults.
What do you think in terms of, sometimes people see these stories and they say, well, that doesn't affect me. I don't have a child there, or I don't have a loved one there. Why should everyone care that this is going on?
Well, these folks need the help that they deserve, and if they don't get that type of help, they are part of our community one way or the other, but they're certainly a part of it where they could potentially harm people or harm themselves in day-to-day life. So trying to get them the help that they need, the help that they deserve, that we're obligated as a state to provide, I do think just helps society in general. Ultimately, if we help these patients, we're going to have stronger families, we'll have stronger communities, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do.